Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the recap and review of NCIS Season 10, Episode 15, Hereafter. I love this episode so much. I don't think it was exactly what people were expecting, and it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but I still loved it so much. I'll get more in depth with that at the end, explaining why, but for now, let us go into the review. So the episode starts off, and it's this soldier guy, and he's in training, and just dies suddenly. Because this is NCIS and we can't have a show with living people. Or not many of them anyway. Cute theme song. Then we kind of go back to the office and we find out that Vance has been gone for 2 months. Our man Jerome Craig is like, you gotta check on Vance, you gotta check on Vance. And Gibbs, this whole episode is, let him have his time. Like, he needs this, we can't rush it. Because he knows where Vance has been. We get the scene of Vance flashing back to the events of Shabbat Shalom, the last dinner. And it wasn't as long as I expected it to be, but they still got their message across, which was nice. Then Vance's kids come in, and you see it not only affected Vance, but it did really strongly affect the kids, which we did not get to see before. So I thought we got to see just a glimpse of how Jackie's death affected the kids. And then Vance finds this mysterious paperwork and all these deposits, and he's like, what is going on? And we kind of start this downward spiral in his mind, and it's kind of consumes him in this episode until we find out what happened at the end. We go back to the team and we find them investigating Corporal Lance Crow's death, and he has all these mysterious scratches and bruises and cuts all over his body. Go back to Vance. Vance is at the bank trying to figure out what's up with all of Jackie's accounts, and it turns out she had all these separate things that he did not know about. And Vance wants to know what's going on, and this guy's like, well, I can't do it without you, but just bring your wife in, we'll settle it all out. This keeps happening to Vance throughout the episode, and it's poor Vance because he can't bring his wife in. And everyone's like, oh, we'll get her back from vacation. And he's like, no, this isn't the kind of vacation you can bring someone back from. But he is able to gain access to a safe deposit box, which has some jewelry and some things and like a picture and money and forms. And Vance is very confused and starts to feel a little hurt because I think what starts going on in his mind is what's going on in all of our minds. Maybe Jackie was planning to file for divorce. Not only did he lose his wife, but now he's beginning to think that maybe he was losing her before she actually died. It's so horrible that he had to experience that. In NCIS headquarters, we find out more about Crow, and he was sort of a bad guy turned good. Nothing that sticks out to them. Then all of a sudden, Private David Holland comes in and is like, well, guess what? He was also involved in a secret fight club. Plot twist. In the end, I'm not exactly sure if this fight club had anything to do with what happened to him. I think the whole fight club thing might have just been a red herring for how it actually ended. But we'll get to that later. We see Ducky doing an autopsy on Crow. Apparently he has all these cuts and gashes all over his body. We also find out that his nails were most likely used as defense weapons, and that whoever killed him would have pretty nasty scratches on them. But his nails look like razor blades. His nails look like the blades of chainsaws. I don't know how this man managed to do this. Was he training to become a cat? The man he fought against would not have nasty scratches. The man he fought against would be missing an arm. So this is the scene we saw in the sneak peek where they're all watching the Fight Club video and they realize that it's held in a fruit company factory thing. Did they beat each other with frozen peaches or what? What was the point of having it in the fruit factory? I know he just sliced open your face, but here's an apple a day to keep the doctor away. It's a nice thought, but I don't think it works that way. Mr. Craig comes in, Mr. Director Craig, excuse me, and Vance is back in the flesh, ready to jump into action as an agent. In the episode, Tony keeps making these little jokes about like Proby Vance and all that, and Gibbs is the one who kind of has to tame him and be like, not the best time. I thought it was gonna lead up to be like, how would you feel if you lost the one you love? And then he'd realize like, well, I did almost lose her in Somalia. And then that would be like this mind-blowing turning point, and then we'd all be like, no, no. That's not what happened. But anyway, they go in and they meet Chucky Bang. Basically, I read summaries to make sure I have my whole timeline of the episode in order. And the summary refers to him as Chucky Bang, the giant Samoan. Okay. So they meet Chucky Bang, and this poor guy keeps getting comments about his weight this entire time. This entire time, poor Chucky Bang, who may have a very sensitive heart, keeps getting tormented because of his larger exterior. I think the real victim of this episode was indeed Chucky Bang. Anyway, they bring this poor individual back to the NCIS interrogation room. We find out that Crow was a good fighter, but he walked away from it. So he was no longer fighting at the fruit arena. Vance comes up with some good pieces of evidence, and then him and Gibbs head out. Down in Abby's lab, we see that he stitched himself up. Crow had been sewing himself back up like a rag doll, which I'm no doctor, but I'm going to assume that's not exactly a safe medical procedure. Then we get back to NCIS, and Gibbs is looking for Tony and Ziva, and they aren't there. But no, they're babysitting. What? So apparently Vance assigned Tony and Ziva to take care of his 2 children. I don't think it was necessary to assign 2 fully functioning grown adults to watch children that aren't exactly that young. I'm gonna guess they're, you know, elementary school age. He assigned Tony and Ziva together, probably for a reason. So we do get to see them babysitting. And Ziva, I love this scene because we have found out recently that Ziva does love children. She's a special place in her heart for children. And a lot of times Ziva's, you know, painted as this hardcore assassin, and then we see her with these 2 little children. She's like, yes, I'll make you hot chocolate with marshmallows. And then Genoso's just in the background like... And then Ziva drags him in, just like, you're scaring the children. They fight like a married couple, because I really think they are married. Something about Tony having this fear of children confuses me, because we've known for a while now that Tony has had this fear of children. But recently, I think as recent as the past couple of seasons, we've seen him start to talk about a family. It was the season 9 Christmas episode where he talked about filling work and family, and he used like Gibbs as cups to do it. And then there was one episode, I have no idea what it was. I don't think I actually saw that episode. I think I just saw a clip of it on YouTube. I think it was in a joke. It was supposed to be part of a joke because he had just been, you know, exposed to toxic materials, and he joked around about his children. I don't know if we were supposed to take it that seriously, but it's still something to think about, some food for thought. And then we come back here, and I love this line where he's like, spent a day at a childcare center and I almost lost my life. And then Ziva asks him, and he's like, alright, I'll try, but because you asked nicely. AKA because I'm really in love with you. And then they give each other this smile, and she walks into the kitchen, and it's just kills me. Vance is obsessed with trying to figure out what his wife was doing because he's really convinced that whatever it was not something good. And then Vance starts to ask Gibbs about Shannon. Then Gibbs is like, no, you need to go home and be with your kids. Vance comes home, and Tony, who is so terrified of children, is chasing the 2 kids around with a pizza box as a shark head on his head. Oh my god. Words cannot express to you all how much I loved and adored this scene. We got a glimpse of what Tony and Ziva would be like as parents. Tony's the one that goes wild with the children and chases them around the house, and Ziva's the mother who tries to correct them but ends up falling into the madness and laughing along with it. And I loved it so much. Maybe they're leading on to something, foreshadowing a little bit. I don't know, you don't know, we don't know. It's the cutest scene, and we finally saw Ziva really, really happy since, you know, we know she's been going through a tough time since Eli died, and it was so refreshing and so nice to see her happy like that. And Tony, Ziva got Tony over his fear of children, which is definitely a big step forward. Some may consider it a turning point even. But then Vance walks in, and Ziva and Vance kind of have this conversation, and we find out that Ziva was not only dealing with Eli's death, but she was also carrying the weight of Jackie's passing. She was blaming herself for what happened to her and the entire Vance family, which kills me, because it was not her fault. And I'm wondering if it's going to lead into her blaming herself for her father's death, that, you know, what would happen if she hadn't stormed out, because there's definitely a lot under the surface. I wasn't sure of it when she had that dead puppet conversation with Tony, but now definitely there's something not right here. I definitely think that the finale this season is going to be Bailar. That's the Spanish word for dance. That is not Aylan Badnar's name. It's gonna be about dance, this season's finale. I definitely feel like this season's finale is going to be centered around finding Badnar, which excites me a lot. Malachi is back, which I will discuss at a later date as soon as we get more into what I think we're going to get into. But Malachi is coming back, ladies and gentlemen. But Tony and Ziva have this short little conversation, and then Ziva walks away with the conversation kind of unresolved. And Tony gives her this look, which I think should be renamed The Look, because he's been giving it to her since she walked away in Shiva. And it's this look where it's not like, what am I gonna have for dinner when I get home? It's more like, I love you, let me love you, I love you so much, please. Just have children together, please. It's like Tony's terrified of children unless he's with Ziva. So it's like, I'm terrified of children unless there are children. And then in that case, let's go ahead. And then him and Ziva run into the sunset and have a whole litter of children. Then Gibbs and McGee go in to try and find Holland, and they find him dead on the bathroom floor. Fantastic. But he has the same wounds as Crow. There's something peculiar arising in this whole military system that they are involved in. Go back, research Jonah Ellis. They figure out that his brother died with the same wounds that these two have. And guess what? This man has been torturing his men to toughen them up. And Vance and Gibbs go to confront this guy who's been doing these things. And his men are kind of brainwashed into thinking that this is really helping them. It kind of strikes up a debate. Was he right in doing this to, you know, help them? But the guy does shed a single tear, and we do kind of pity him that he had to lose his brother this way and that he's faced with this conflict that's making him do these horrible things. Back at NCIS, in the director's office, we get this super sweet scene between Vance and Craig. I love Craig. I'm gonna miss Craig. I just want him back. I just want Craig. Back at Casa de Gibbs, Gibbs is down his basement refurbishing a cast iron stove. We find out that Jackie had gotten a life insurance policy after the bomb to make sure that she would be okay after Vance's death if he were to die in office, but also that Vance would not have to step down from the job he loves. So not only is Jackie not a bad person, she's an incredible wife and mother, which just makes this whole situation hurt a little bit more. And then Shannon apparently did the same thing for Gibbs, and it's like, apparently if you buy the life insurance policy, you die. So whatever life insurance policy they're getting, I don't recommend to you people. But it's such a bittersweet scene because they're bonding over their wives' deaths. And then Vance asks Gibbs what he's making, and Gibbs doesn't tell him because I really don't think Gibbs knows. What do you need a cast iron stove for? It worries me that we won't find it out till the series finale, and I just can't wait that long. So with that, I believe my Hereafter review is all finished. I loved it because I think a lot of people were expecting some giant TV revelation, and some people were annoyed because they just wanted the episode to be focused on Vance. And I think the two were tied together nicely. We did get a focusing on Vance and a little bit of a Tiva progression scene thing. So I definitely think it was the best of both worlds. I thought it was such a nicely done episode. The first 24 hours after it aired, I watched it 3 times. I'll see you guys for Detour spoilers and theories. Goodbye.